Good afternoon, Victoria. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon. Very well, thank you. And you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
It is cooling off a little bit here, which is good. But last time we talked, weather was a factor in harvest. And I think we're there again, aren't we?
Well, I think so too, because your heat is now heading our way. So we are heading for hot temperatures this week. I think it's supposed to be back up to 27 on Wednesday here in Quebec. So, yeah, warmer temperatures coming back through again. So, most definitely. I think more so than just the warm temperatures is also the lack of precipitation. Quebec was lucky. We got a few showers last week, but Ontario has still been going through pretty dry. New Brunswick as well. They got a little bit of rain in the north that we had gotten in Quebec. But the island of PEI has really been suffering. They had their lowest precipitation in August, I think, ever in the month of August this year, and record temperatures, temperatures that they don't usually see in the high 30s. So the crop is definitely suffering. Their early crop coming out was impacted for sure. We thought that they would still have time for the main crop, but the rains really just didn't come in August. So now the plants are getting sort of past the point where even if we get rain, can they really absorb it and make use of it? So their harvest period is technically, the last to go in Canada.
Yeah.
So again, we're crossing our fingers that they'll have some time to get that before they start harvesting, but things are not looking wonderful. So we have adjusted our production estimates, taking that into account. Definitely the heat and dryness across the east, really.
I felt it even in Alberta, though, recently with that heat wave we had. We did have like torrential downpours and a lot of rain kind of earlier at the
Yeah,
start of the season, but now it has been quite dry for several weeks now.
it has. It has. I think the benefit in Alberta is that the most of it's the processing crop, and most of that is irrigated. So
Correct.
they're able to do a bit of a better job, sort of controlling that. In PEI, maybe 10% of their potato crops are irrigated. So they really are dryland farmers that rely on Mother Nature for their water. So it's pretty tough for them.
How does that look, or how does that shake out in terms of estimates for production?
Yeah, so we've adjusted it down. We're probably sitting in Canada, we're expecting maybe 120, just over 126 million, which is down from last year. We were bouncing around 128 million, let's say. The thing is I think it's more the comparison of where we were in June, which was, much higher production. The crops were amazing across the country. But since mid-July, I would say from Ontario east, it's just been dry and warm, and the plants have just been stressed. So we've been, moving that downwards steadily from August through till now in September. So, and out of that 126 million, most of the fresh product is, of course, in Eastern Canada, and we've kind of bumped that down to about 24 million. In the fresh pile. 24 million hundredweight, I'm talking, and 126 million hundredweight, sorry. Should specify that. But yeah, so the market for fresh is looking smaller than what we had originally thought, especially compared to back in June. So definitely a thing to keep an eye on. In the West, the crop is looking great. BC is had a fantastic crop. Harvest is going well for them. They're just much smaller player in the fresh side of things, and so far west that can't really necessarily help out the east, even if they were looking for potatoes. But Alberta, Manitoba, an excellent crop, mostly in processing there as well. So we're definitely going to see a lot of processing potatoes. But that's the case in the Pacific Northwest as well. Idaho, Columbia Basin, which is Washington and Oregon, definitely a surplus of processing potatoes out there. They have an excellent growing season, very good yields, and there will be a lot of potatoes. They're looking at estimating 400, just over 421 million hundredweight of potatoes. That's all sectors in the U.S. Out of that would be Idaho would represent about 143 million. So they're producing more in Idaho than we produce in Canada, all all across Canada. Yeah, it's quite a number. It's quite the scale of operations in Idaho. I think my only concern this year, I think with Idaho, we saw a ton of potatoes last year, lots of russets floating around. That has impacted us right through until the new crop. In terms of in Canada, I think we've stabilized well. We've matched our supply and demand a bit better. Our pricing was not as impacted in the U.S. That russet pricing is really depressed and has been for most of the season. The thing is that when the processing cuts came through, there were cuts in Idaho anywhere from 10 to 15%. And we should have seen a reduction of acreage in Idaho, but we did not. They've estimated they've basically sort of planted the same acres as they did last year. However, the varieties are different and there are a lot more fresh varieties in there. So back to my original statement, I think my only concern with Idaho is in the fresh pile and not just in russets, but also in reds and yellows. So they have come onto the market strong with yellows and reds. So we'll see, how that's going to play out moving forward.
Was that strategic, do you think? How would that?
Well, I think that was just the cuts came so late. People were so close to planting. Everything was ready to go. Ground's fumigated. Everything's ready. So they returned some of the processing seed potatoes that they had ordered, but then took fresh varieties instead. So, right. and some Norcotas, which I think can fall either way. So, it's not necessarily strategic as it is sort of, well, we're going to go ahead, fingers crossed. And across North America, really. The cuts were so late from two of the processors that, okay, well, we're already this far into it. We'll see how the market reacts at the end.
What else? From a weather standpoint, that also impacts storage.
Yep, definitely. Yes, you're right. In terms of the warmer temperatures that we're having and the warmer temperatures forecast. So I'm out in the fields in 27-degree weather in September harvesting while those potatoes need to cool down. One, it'll change harvest schedules. People will likely be, going really early in the morning and stopping midday if it gets too warm, and then letting them sit a bit before they actually put them away into storage. Sometimes that impacts the open market where I'm pulling out a field and I don't want to put them into storage because it's too warm. So I'll put them into the retail market or food service market right out of field. So that can I think we see a little less of that in Canada, but maybe more so in the US. But definitely there are people that are saying, we saw a bit of a push on yellows because we think the high temperatures in Idaho, people didn't want to go to storage right away, so they're just pushing them into the market. So that dynamic can happen when those temperatures are too warm for storage. So,
touching back on the fact that Idaho planted different varieties, is that sort of part of a way to impact like those hotter climate potato varieties, or is that something that we would adopt here, or not really?
I don't think so. I think this year it was a matter of what's available. We need to get going on planting. We are ready to go. If we're not going to plant processing acres, what have you got that's available? I don't think it was necessarily as planned as we would like to think it would be in terms of, climate resistant. But that being said, in the industry as a whole, there is a lot of research into those varieties and drought resistant, heat resistant. What can we do to better prepare for the future and these warmer temperatures for a longer part of the season?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Any other things that growers should be aware of as we look to the upcoming months? We're into fall, post-harvest. Anything on the horizon?
I think that's it. I think it's really, as you mentioned about storage being such an important part, is remembering that you've worked this hard to get the crop in the ground, back out of the ground, growing it in between, and not to just, okay, we're done now, making sure that, and I shouldn't preach to that because the growers know that, but making sure that you're up to date on the latest in terms of storage. We've been talking a lot, as you know, in the US about the AIM Act. We do have that regulatory environment in Canada about HFCs for refrigerated storages. So, it's time to do some research on making sure we're doing the best we can to keep those potatoes well in storage throughout the year so that we have that availability all year round, which is what the retailers love.
Hopefully some of those conversations happen as we head into what we lovingly call meeting season.
Yeah.
Where can I hope to find United this?
First stop will be the Alberta Trade Show and Conference, and United. Terrence Hochstein generously invited me to speak this year at the conference, so I'm kind of excited about that. And so that'll be the first. Quebec follows the following week. They have their potato meetings conference, the following week. And then we kind of hit the ground running in January with Potato Expo in Dallas, and then Manitoba Production Days in January as well. The Potato Technology Conference show is coming back to PEI this year. So it's every second year, I think. So it's back again this year. So that will be really interesting. That's a little bit later in February than I think it was last year. It was mid-February. Now I think it's towards the end of February. And at the beginning of February, we have the New Brunswick Trade Show and Conference. And then kind of finish it up in Ontario with their conference in March, usually at the beginning of March. So hitting all the provinces. And we have our meeting with the BC Potato and Vegetable, which is usually sort of mid-February as well. So, busy meeting season. So we'll be around keeping people updated on the market and talking about some of the AIM Act and Canada equivalent in terms of storage. So hopefully we'll make sure the growers are well informed about what they need to think about for their potato crops moving forward.
I'm certainly looking forward to seeing you and the growers coming up in the next couple of months.
Hopefully we'll be hitting the same shows.
Exactly. Hope so. Thank you again, Victoria, for taking time to talk to me. And we'll see you next month for sure.
Sounds great. See you then.